Hi everyone, and welcome to the fourth and final training tape for the 2022-2023 season for basketball officials. My name's Cade. If you watch the other training videos, this introduction is no different than the other one. I'm the training coordinator for the Wisconsin River Officials Association and the Arrowhead Officials Association. I've got a lot of clips today, so I'm just going to kind of move right into it. These are our disclaimers on the screen. I'm not going to read them. You can read them, but know that you will see some plays, especially from women's college games today. So just keep in mind that we're in NFHS rules and three-person coverage as we go along. And remember, you can always contact me with questions. Keep in mind, as the video goes along, you'll be able to select the different chapters that are in the description or on the timeline of your video there if you're watching on your phone. So just some things to keep in mind as if you wanna watch some and then go back. So our first topic is going to be transition coverage. I believe transition is where we can be the most vulnerable because we're out of position. And I think getting good angles in transition is more important than anything like trying to get to home base, especially as the lead. Keep in mind as we move in transition, the center is the one who I believe needs to have the most help with the ball and things like that. If they go and can get in the right position to see the floor as a whole, they're going to be able to help us the most, especially with the lead moving and possibly working the end line, and then the new trail who might not even be to the division line by the time a play at the rim is happening. So center, I believe, is the most important in transition, and pick up defenders and own the ball. So on this play here, we got the center who's going to be right here, and then we have the new lead who's going to be right here. And as this play goes through, we're going to see a play at the rim, and then we're going to have a double whistle on this play. So I think this is a really good job by the C of staying with the ball and owning kind of their primary here, especially because it's on their side, right? And I think they do a good job of not taking themselves out of the play by maintaining an angle, being able to see the space between the shooter and a possible defender. Yes, the lead has a play on this, but they're having to look through bodies here. And I think the center is the one who should have a whistle on this and be able to have the best look at it. So overall, well done by the center official of doing this. Just as the lead, maybe stopping if you want to get a look at this and being able to get some space, or just move right to the end line and trust your center official. But again, overall, a really good job by the center official on this play. On this play, the center official is going to be nearest to us on the sideline, and we have the old trail new lead, and then the old lead new trail on the opposite side. We're going to see the ball kind of work to the corner here, and we're going to see kind of a nasty hit here to the chest, and the lead is going to come in and save it. In this play, the center's really got to be engaged, right? Because they have the best open look at this, and it looks like they may even have eyes on it. But when in a play like this something happens, it's always good for the lead to also be turned around and pick up the ball if they can too. And in this case, they do that and they come in and save the play as the center doesn't have a whistle on it. The trail here, I think, does the best that they can of getting a look, but ultimately has to look through a back. And what I am mainly getting at is that the center really should just be engaged and be able to get this right away, and also could deliver information of, say, a flagrant or intentional foul in this case. So overall, good job by the lead of coming in and saving the crew, but this is one where we really want the center to be engaged and come and get. On this play, we're going to have the center official be right here, and then we're going to have the new lead right here. And we're going to see kind of a play at the rim, and it's going to be kind of a tough one to judge, between a foul and a travel. But what I really like is that the lead just stops. And this is where I talk about, getting the best look that you can in transition and not necessarily getting the home base. The lead could have taken themselves out of this play and just ran right to the end line. And in that case, when the center has no whistle, and they should, then we could be in trouble, between a travel or a foul. So I think the lead does a good job of keeping themselves in the play and coming and get it. This is, again, one where we want the center to be engaged and we want them to come in and get a foul, but also sometimes the center just doesn't have the best look. And so this is where if you can keep yourself engaged as the lead, you're going to be really better off to be able to judge plays like this. So overall, you can argue between whether it's a travel or a foul, but I think just a good point to make with this play is the lead not taking themselves out of the play and just having a whistle on it. So in this play, let's just keep our eyes here on the what's going to be new lead. The new center is going to be across the floor right about there. So as this play kind of goes through, this is going to be one where it's going to be on the new lead side. And I still, this doesn't have a whistle on it. And there are a couple things to take away. First, if the center can get a whistle, get a whistle. We do see that there are some players that may obstruct the view of the center between the center and the ball. But then that brings me back to the point of the lead can't take themselves out of this play. And in my opinion, they take themselves out of the play here. They're trying to race to get back to the end line. And whenever you have to race, just lose, if that makes sense, and stop. We see that the lead does stop short of the end line, but I think if they stop kind of about where the white player is there as he's taking his shirt off, we might be able to get a really good look at this play as the lead. I believe since the lead is trying to move and stay with the ball, they essentially get blocked and they're not able to give an accurate ruling on the play. So if we don't take ourselves out of the play as lead here, we are going to have a whistle on this play. And I think that's really important to think about, especially in some fast-paced boys games like you have in this instance here. This next play, we're going to kind of see a late rotation here by the lead, and then we're going to have a lot of stuff going on here as the play transpires. Whenever you have a late rotation, whether it's on a shot or especially a turnover like this place or like this case, I think something that's really important just to keep in mind is going and just staying with the play. So in this case, I think the center just gets a little flustered, doesn't realize or know if the new lead in this case picks up the rotation. It isn't sure what to do. And I believe in this case, it's better to have a center in the trail on the same side and get a foul like we potentially have here on this 3-point play, or at least a mark, rather than not have anything. In this case, the lead who rotated on the turnover did a good job of recognizing that the other two didn't pick it up and went back, and I think that's very well done by them. But the official who's the center in this case kind of gets, I believe, just a little flustered and not sure what to do, which is okay and understandable to feel when you have something like this happen. But the important thing is just to keep your focus, keep your eyes on the play, and just officiate what's in front of you. And if you do that, you're going to be okay on plays like this. So especially if this is something that doesn't happen very often, it might happen to you if you're working with new partners in the playoffs. Just keep in mind, officiate what's in front of you. If you see something that's a foul, just come in, get it, especially as a center. In this case, when we're talking about transition, they got to own the transition, the ball, the defenders. So if we can just get a foul on this play here, potentially, I'm not going to say that it is or isn't a foul, but if there is a foul here, we get it, and we don't have to worry about the scrum that happens after that. Second topic that we're going to be talking about is post play. So post play is just one where, it's just, it's a phase of basketball that's kind of going out, but it's still a part of the game. And something that we just got to keep in mind is that we still need legal guarding position in post play, and displacement and holding is what we're often going to have. And it can be by the offense or the defense. So in this particular play here, let's keep an eye on this matchup right here. And as we watch right away, we're going to kind of see some contact occur here. And we're going to see an offensive player pushing a defensive player out. In my mind, that initial contact by the offense that we see here is an offensive foul. The defensive player has a right to the space that they're in, and the offensive player cannot push them out of the space that they're in, regardless of if they are guarding them or not. So I think that while the lead's engaged with this play, there's displacement here. It creates an obvious advantage. And if we get this, then we don't lead to the possible block charge there, and then also the foul that occurs after that. So overall, get the first foul in the post. If you can do that, especially early in the game, it's going to be better overall. So on this play now, we're going to keep an eye on this offensive player and this defensive player that's going to switch on to him right here. So this is going to end up being the center's play. It's going to be a play on the opposite block off of a screen on an inbounds. And this is one where I want to talk about advantage, disadvantage. So yes, you can argue that the defensive player in this case jumps from point A to point B. In fact, it's not really an argument. We can see that he does do that. He moves into him, which is not a legal move or anything that we can do. But what we do know is that there might be advantage, disadvantage when it comes to this. And I personally here, in this case, really like the no call by the center official. I really believe that while, yes, he jumps A to B, the offensive player is also kind of moving away from the defender and is fading away, and is also to get off a strong post move with ease here and finish through contact, which coaches preach about so much. So in my mind, I think that this could be a really good no call if it fits the type of game that you're officiating. If this is the type of contact that you've been calling all day and you are supported by the rule book, definitely, jumping A to B into a player is considered a foul. But I think when you look at the advantage, disadvantage here, I don't really believe that there's really any advantage gained or disadvantage to the offensive player. And I think is really good patient by the center of just letting the play develop and not having a foul here. So feel free to disagree with me on this one, but I just think this is a good example of post defense where we don't need to penalize the defensive player after they've already given up a basket. Certainly if the player is pushed to the ground or is displaced more, I would certainly support a foul. But I just think right here is just a good job of just kind of seeing how the play develops. Again, the advantage, disadvantage that I'm talking about. On this play, we're going to be looking at the post matchup right here. And our calling official is going to be right here. And I apologize for the low quality of this video. But as this play goes through, we see that we're going to get a foul call here on the defensive player. And again, we're going to go back to the advantage disadvantage argument. Is there an advantage gained here by the defensive player? I would argue no. I believe that I'm not sure exactly what was called here in terms of if it was a push or a hold, but I know also that the lead is on the opposite side. Now, I'm not saying the lead needs to rotate over because up until he calls his foul, it's a balanced formation. But because of looking through the backs and the uncertainty, I think if they rotate over after the ball settles here and judge that post play a little bit, I think that they're going to come in with a no call. So I think if we're just a little bit more patient on plays like these, especially in the playoffs where every foul matters, I think that we can pass on this one. As we see it, the defensive player doesn't really take away anything that the offensive player has. There's no advantage gain. And I think patience is key, especially on plays like this. On this play, we're going to be looking right at the ball. And we see as this player goes up, the defensive player that's guarding him, I think does a really good job of maintaining good post defense. They keep the principle of verticality. I don't really believe that they move into the offensive player. And people can say, well, his hands came down. But is that because he wanted to or because the offensive player, bumps him on the chest and pushes his hands down? So I think this is a good job of the center of being patient, of letting the play develop and realizing that, hey, there is good post defense. And I think that the player here in this case did a really good job of just walling up and keeping that legal guarding position of their chest up, their hands back, and overall just a really good job of the defensive player and a nice job of the center official of rewarding good post defense. The third topic that I'm going to talk about is intentional and flagrant fouls. And these are just some kind of key things for me when I think about intentional and flagrant. The flagrant is the one where it's really excessive and disqualifying in nature. The intentional, is still not a play on the ball. And I think that's something to keep in mind, especially as we get into the playoffs here. And we may have some chippiness with some rivalries and stuff like that. And always have these, follow these up with discussions if you're going to make a decision like this in the game. So this is overall just something that we just got to be our best at here towards the end of the season. We can't allow plays like this to kind of slip out of our hands, so to speak. So on this play, we're going to have this player right here tried to get through an elevator screen at the top of the key. And what we see here is just a push through, he's going to push through one player and then kind of push the shooter over as well. This, in my mind, I believe is an intentional foul. While, it's not a play on the ball and, people say, well, push through screens happen all the time. If we look at his body language, see how he does that, he kind of loads himself up and launches almost like you would say like targeting or something like that. When we see that, that should be key indicators of an intentional or a flagrant foul. Now, in my mind, I think this is definitely intentional. If you wanted to say upgrade to flagrant for how he kind of loads himself up and pushes him off, I'm not going to disagree with you. But in my mind, this is at least an intentional foul because it's kind of harmful in nature and it's not a play on the ball and there's definitely intent to it. Next play that we're going to look at, and it's going to happen fast as soon as I press play, is this player right here. And what happens on this play is we see the player push or pass the ball off and then go through, and then a player goes to the floor. So at first, I think a lot of people are saying, whoa, that's a punch, disqualifying. But something that we have to keep in mind, and what we especially gets taught at the higher levels of basketball, is the swim move. And I believe that's a possibility of what happens here. And I just think that when the player goes to say, swim move, so to speak, they just catch him in the face here, and it looks really bad. Do not get me wrong. I definitely would go for something higher than a common foul. A punch to the face is a punch to the face, regardless of intent or not. But disqualifying, so to speak, that's really up to your judgment and nature. The lead should have a great look at this play and be able to get a whistle on it, which they don't in this case, and part of that is the women's primary coverage area. But the trail can also kind of help here too. If they just stop and widen their view out a little bit, and I can tell based off of the shot clock that it's early in the possession. But if they can get to their home base right away and stop, because you can see they're still moving there, they might be able to catch this. But ultimately, in high school, the lead should have a great look at plays like this, and especially here in this case where we don't have anything in the lead's PCA, this is something where they should have their eyes on, have a good open look at it, and be able to come in and get a foul. So just some food for thought on this play. Again, I think intentional. I wouldn't necessarily upgrade to disqualifying just based off of the possibility of what it could be, but I definitely wouldn't argue that it's nothing. Final thing that we're going to look at is just the importance of good mechanics. And we're just going to look at two plays where I think if we have good mechanics, we're going to look a lot more credible and a lot more sharp, especially as we get into the later rounds of the playoffs. So this first play that we're going to look at, just look at the lead official right here. And we kind of see a play develop, and I'm not really going to comment on if it's a charge or whatever. I'll let you be the judge of that. But I think something that we just need to just keep in mind is, first, if we're going to wave off a shot, do it on a made shot. In this case, it's not a made shot, so I don't really think that the wave off is necessary. Second, I think we just need to post. You never know if there's going to be a double whistle here and something else, and then you end up with a blarge like we covered in our last training tape. The second is we don't need to be so aggressive in our calls. We definitely want to sell it, don't get me wrong, but I think in this case, the call comes more just off as kind of aggressive, and that can give the perception that we're just moving really, really fast. If you come in here and just give a fist and then just one little, hand behind the head with a charge, I think that's perfectly fine. But in this case, where we just have so much aggression here, I just don't believe that it's really necessary in this case to have as much kind of aggression as we do on this play, and especially because we need to post. If we don't post, that can lead to trouble. So just especially for the importance of perception, slowing ourselves down, I think that's really important. I will comment though, really nice job by the lead of staying with the matchup as they rotate, because it's easy to not stay with the matchup that they're officiating and have a no call on this. So I will say well done by the lead on that part. The last play that we're going to look at the 2022-23 season is going to be by this official right here. And as we see this play go, we're just going to kind of see a failure to post on a block charge. And that's really important. Again, I'm not going to comment what it is, whether it's a block or whether it's a charge. But we see that we kind of do our own blarge here in this case. There's no post, and that's the number one thing that we got to do. We got to post. If we don't post, that can lead to double whistles. Second, if we're going to put our hand behind our head even a little bit, we got to go with it. As we can see, we kind of give two preliminaries here. We're like going to go with the charge, and then we kind of give a little bit of a weaker block signal. If you're going to give one call, we talked about the last one being over enthusiastic. On this one, I think we need to be a little bit more enthusiastic of the call. Are we really selling it if we're kind of really timid with our hand motions and we're not giving, portraying the full confidence of ourselves in this play? So I think overall, our steps with this, again, we should just post, and then we should make a signal, and that's it. Once we make that signal, we got to go with it. So Overall, again, slow yourself down too. I think possibly, they speed themselves up. They think that, oh, it's this, but then, oh my gosh, no, it's actually a block. When we post, we allow ourselves to be able to make that decision in real time and give ourselves kind of that extra second. So just some food for thought, especially on a play like that. Okay, that's all. Thank you guys all so much for your support throughout the season. Enjoy and congratulations to those who have your playoff assignments. Work hard, finish out the year on a good note, and we will see you next year. Thank you so much.